Welcome to Catholic Shrine Basilica YouTube channel. National Shrine Basilica of Our Lady of Charity, Santiago de Cuba, Cuba. Introduction. National Shrine Basilica of Our Lady of Charity is a Roman Catholic minor basilica dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary located in Santiago de Cuba, Cuba. It was built in 1926 in the village of El Cobre about 12 miles west of Santiago de Cuba. It is a three-aisled church on the hill Cerro de la Cantera and is linked to the village by a flight of 254 steps. It has a central bell tower and two side towers crowned by red brick domes. The basilica is under the circumscription of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Santiago de Cuba. The basilica was decreed on 22nd of December, 1977. Stunning as it materializes above the village of El Cobre, Cuba's most revered religious site shimmers against the verdant hills behind. Recently renovated along with many other of Cuba's churches, the church interior is impressive, light, but not ostentatious with some vivid stained glass. The existing basilica dates to 1927, though a sanctuary has existed on this site since 1648. There's an unending line of pilgrims, many of whom will have traveled from as far as the United States. Visitors maintain a respectful silence and light prayer candles. La Virgen resides in a glass case high above the altar. For such a powerful entity, she's absolutely diminutive, some 40 centimeters from crown to the hem of her golden robe. Check out the fine Cuban coat of arms in the center, a wondrous work of embroidery. History of Our Lady of Charity, Santiago de Cuba. Basilica of Our Lady of Charity, Santiago de Cuba treasures attractive, wonderful, historical, patrimonial, and cultural places that increase Cuba's reputation. Its citizens share this emotional and friendly feeling intrinsic to the people of this land. The National Shrine Basilica of Our Lady of Charity of El Cobre excels among many others since it gathers thousands of visitors each year from all around the country and other places of the world. The basilica has gained greater visibility these days because Pope Francis will celebrate a Mass there next September 22nd. In a trip to Santiago de Cuba, when you go by El Cobre, 22 kilometers away from the country's second largest city, the church looks like a postcard embedded in the mountains, thanks to its natural beauty, and such tangible and spiritual heritage that make it unique. During his visit to the island in 1998, the Pope John Paul II crowned and praised the image of the Virgin in the third Mass he celebrated in Cuba, held in the Revolution Square Antonio Maceo, on January 24. On March 26, 2012, Pope Benedict XVI awarded the city with the Golden Rose on the occasion of the ceremony for the 400th anniversary of the finding of the Virgin of the Charity's image. With the arrival of Pope Francis on September 21, the sanctuary will become one of the few privileged places in the world to have welcomed the last three popes. The Bishop of Rome will find a respectful, noble, and helpful people. Cuba has also had magnificent men who showed huge love for the country and God, and they were examples of the Cuban ethnicity: Father Varela, José de la Luz y Caballero, and José Agustín Caballero. El Cobre settlement gained prominence in the years 1604 to 1613 after two Indians and a Creole Negro found the image of the Virgin of the Charity floating at the northeastern sea of Cuba. The episode, narrated under ecclesiastic oath by Juan Moreno, known as El Negrito de la Caridad, the Little Negro of the Charity, tells the story of how he and two of his Indian brothers, Juan and Rodrigo de Hoyos, were in a canoe looking for salt. When they were leaving the French quay, Nipe Bay, they saw something floating at the sea, and much to their surprise, they realized it was the Virgin of the Charity image. From that moment on, the worship fused with the spirituality of native people and transcended the whole country. According to old documents kept at the General Archive of the Indies, the arrival of the image of the Virgin of Charity, Virgen de la Caridad, in the mountain range of El Cobre took place when Artillery Captain Francisco Sanchez de Moya received a mandate from King Philip II in May 1597 commanding him to go to the mines to defend those coasts from the attacks of British pirates. Following those events, the king ordered him to build a small church, where soldiers and miners could go to entrust themselves and to pray to the venerated image. The sanctuary of El Cobre is one of the most revered religious sites by the Cuban people. Coming from different territories of the nation, believers seek the spiritual comfort, the solution to their longings and problems that affect humans. It is said that in 1915 the veterans of the War of Independence wrote to Pope Benedict XV requesting him to proclaim the Virgin of Charity as Patroness of Cuba, and this came true on 10th of May, 1916. Pope Pius XI authorized the canonical coronation of the Holy Image, and on the morning of 20th of December, 1936, the then Archbishop of Santiago de Cuba, Monsignor Valentin Zubizarreta carried out the investiture. At the beginning, the sanctuary was built from palm tree leaves and wood. After a number of mysterious incidents surrounding the image, it was taken to what would be its final temple, a short distance away, on the top of a hill close to the copper mines. Located on the headland of Santiago del Prado, it has 3 naves, with a symmetrical main facade. Its central structure ends in a dome and its lateral naves are topped by towers featuring steeples at a lower level. Its first chapel collapsed in 1906 due to explosions and excavations in the mines. The sanctuary of El Cobre was proclaimed as Basilica on December 22, 1977 by Pope Paul VI. The current temple, which offers Mass every morning, was inaugurated on September 8, 1927 and has an altar of solid silver and other ornamental objects of great value. The temple houses the so-called Chapel of Miracles, a small room where believers place their offerings. An outstanding event in that extent is that renowned U.S. writer Ernest Hemingway offered that deity his Nobel Prize in Literature. He said then he did so in recognition to the Cuban people, who inspired his work The Old Man and the Sea, which earned him the award in Stockholm. Our Lady of Charity. Our Lady of Charity, also known as Our Lady of El Cobre, Nuestra Señora de la Caridad del Cobre or La Virgen de la Caridad, is a popular Marian title of the Blessed Virgin Mary known in many Catholic countries. Several known Marian images with the same title exist around the world, while a particular Hispanic image is pontifically designated by Pope Benedict XV as the Patroness of Cuba. This image of the Madonna and Child is enshrined in the National Shrine Basilica of Our Lady of Charity of El Cobre, built in 1926 and situated in the village El Cobre, near Santiago de Cuba. Pope Pius XI granted a canonical coronation for the image on 20 December 1936. Various similar Marian images predating the Cuban image have a similar title, as well as having been granted a canonical coronation by the popes, and can be found in the Spanish cities of Cartagena, Villarrobledo, Illescas, Loja, La Gravilla, and Toledo, Spain, along with its replicated copies in Basilica Minore of Our Lady of Charity in Agu, and the image of Bantay Church in Ilocos Sur, Philippines. History of Our Lady of Charity. The history of the La Virgen de la Caridad del Cobre began around 1612. The image is thought to have been brought by Spaniard colonists from the town of Illescas, a province in Toledo, Spain, where a similar statue of the Virgin Mary of Charity was already well venerated. Local legend recalls the Spanish captains who bring with them religious Marian images to guide and protect them from English pirates at sea. Two Native American or Indian brothers, Rodrigo and Juan de Hoyos, and an African slave child, Juan Moreno, set out to the Bay of Nipe for salt. They are traditionally given the moniker the Three Juans. They needed the salt for the preservation of the meat at the Barragagua slaughterhouse, which supplied the workers and inhabitants of Santiago del Prado, now known as El Cobre. While out in the bay, a storm arose, rocking their tiny boat violently with incoming waves. Juan, the child, was wearing a medal with the image of the Virgin Mary. The three men began to pray for her protection. Suddenly, the skies cleared, and the storm was gone. In the distance, they saw a strange object floating in the water. They rowed towards it as the waves carried it to them. At first they mistook it for a bird, but quickly saw that it was what seemed to be a statue of a girl. At last they were able to determine that it was a statue of the Virgin Mary holding the child Jesus on her left arm and a gold cross in her right hand. The statue was fastened to a board with an inscription saying Yo soy la Virgen de la Caridad, or I am the Virgin of Charity. Much to their surprise, the statue remained completely dry while afloat in the water. Overjoyed by what they had discovered, they hurried back to Barragagua. They showed the statue to a government official, Don Francisco Sanchez de Moya, who then ordered a small chapel to be built in her honor. One night, Rodrigo went to visit the statue, but discovered that the image was gone. He organized a search party, but had no success in finding Our Lady of Charity. Then, the next morning, she was back on the altar, as if nothing had happened. This was inconceivable as the chapel had been locked. This event happened 3 times. The people of Barragagua came to the conclusion that she wanted to be in a different spot, so they took her to El Cobre. She was received with much joy in El Cobre, and the church there had its bells ring on her arrival. It was at this point that she became known as Nuestra Señora de la Caridad del Cobre, or Our Lady of Charity of El Cobre. Much to the dismay of people in El Cobre, the disappearance of the statue continued to happen. One day, a young girl named Jabo was playing outside, pursuing butterflies and picking flowers. She went towards the mountains of the Sierra Maestra, where she came across the statue on top of a small hill. There were those who did and those who did not believe the little girl's testimony, but in the end, the Virgin was taken to the spot of her discovery, where a church was erected for her. Before the famous image on 19 May 1801, a royal edict from King Charles IV of Spain decreed that Cuban slaves were to be freed from the El Cobre copper mines. The story circulated around the island quickly. Many felt that the Virgin purposely chose to have her sanctuary in El Cobre because it is located in Oriente province. Later folk legends associated the taking of copper materials to their homes after having it blessed near the Virgin's sanctified image as a form of souvenir and miraculous healing. Description: the Cuban statue venerated measures about 16 inches tall. The head is made of baked clay covered with a polished coat of fine white powder. Her feet rest on a brilliant moon, while angels spread their golden wings on a silver cloud. The child Jesus raises his right hand as in a blessing, and in his left hand he holds a golden globe. A popular image of Our Lady of Charity includes a banner above her head with a Latin phrase Mater Caritatis Fluctibus Maris Ambulavit, Mother of Charity who walked on the road of stormy seas. Originally, the robes on the image were white in color. Newer robes are embroidered with gold and silver, which includes the national shield of Cuba. Among Cuban religious devotees, the image is given the familiar title of La Cachita. Pontifical approbations. Cuban revolutionary leader Carlos Manuel de Cespedes presented the Cuban banner to the image along with his soldiers who wore a similar medal, while Cuban General Calixto Garcia bowed at the image during a holy mass in honor of Mombasa's resistance. Our Lady of Charity acquired the title La Virgen Mambisa, or the Virgin for Cuban independence. On 24 September 1915, the Cuban revolutionaries wrote a letter petitioning the Pope Benedict XV to honor her as patroness of their country. Pope Benedict XV declared Our Lady of Charity of El Cobre patroness of Cuba on 10 May 1916 at the written request of the soldier veterans of the Cuban War of Independence. Pope Pius XI granted a canonical coronation for the image during the Eucharistic Congress at Santiago de Cuba on 20 December 1936 by Monsignor Valentin Zubizarreta y Unamun Saga. Pope Paul VI, in his papal bull Quanto Christi Fideles, then raised her sanctuary to the category of minor basilica on 22 December 1977 through the appointed papal legate Cardinal Bernardine Ganton. John Paul II solemnly crowned her again during his apostolic visit on 24 January 1998. Pope Benedict XVI awarded a golden rose in honor of the image and her shrine on 27 March 2012. Pope Francis enshrined a brass statue given to Pope Benedict XVI by Cuban bishops, in May 2008, within the gardens of Vatican City in August 2014, then enshrined in 2016 at the 13th slot. Feast Day, 12th April. The annual feast day of Our Lady of Charity, Cobre, Cuba, and memorials of the saints held on 12th April. In the mountains outside Santiago in Cuba, is an old pilgrimage church, Nuestra Señora de la Caridad, which means, Our Lady of Charity, also known as Our Lady of Cobre. It is the national shrine of Cuba. Mass time: Mondays, 10:15 a.m. Tuesdays to Fridays, 8 a.m., 10:15 a.m. Saturdays, 8 a.m. Sundays, 8 a.m., 10 a.m. Church visiting time: every days, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Contact info: Basilica of Our Lady of Charity, 3322+796, El Cobre, Cuba. Website: www.virgendelacaritadelcobre.org. How to reach the Basilica. Antonio Maceo International Airport in Santiago, Cuba is the nearby airport to the Basilica. Santiago de Cuba Railway Station is the nearby train station to the Basilica. If you wish to know more about Catholic shrine basilicas, Marian shrines and Marian apparitions, subscribe to our Catholic Shrine Basilica YouTube channel. Like and share with your loved ones. For more churches, website www.catholicshrinebasilica.com.